Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end at the high point of the day after a steady session. The Nifty reclaims 25,000. Bank stocks lead the rally. CNBC TV 18 exclusive. We learn the Reserve Bank prodding AxisBank to recognize stress prompted a review of the bank's NPA framework, which the central bank had flagged as too lenient. Sources say it was this review which led to the higher provisioning in the first quarter. India and the US had to hold further talks over a trade deal after completing 5 rounds of talks so far. Commerce Minister Goyal says no compromise on the interests of farmers and small businesses as President Trump's August 1st deadline to impose additional tariffs looms large.
सदन के पहले दिन सदन को बाधित करना उचित नहीं है। अपनी सीट पर जाएं। आप अपनी सीट पर जाएं।
Stormy start to the winter session of Parliament. Protests erupt in both houses as opposition demands discussions on the Pahalgam terror attack and Operation Sindoor. Questions raised about government's foreign policy after US President Trump's remarks about brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Aviation Minister tells Parliament it's too early to draw any definite conclusions on the Air India crash in Ahmedabad, says Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is totally unbiased and the government will only comment after the final report is submitted. The rise of Blinkit drives eternal. The Zomato parent reports a healthy first quarter revenue up 70%. Order value from quick commerce business is more than the food delivery business for the first time in a full quarter. A CNBC TV 18 newsbreak has confirmed SonaComstar set to enter China's EV market signs a binding term sheet to set up a component manufacturing joint venture with China's JNT. SonaComstar will hold 60% stake in the joint venture and is expected to invest $12 million. The Supreme Court dismisses a petition by the Enforcement Directorate against Congress leader and Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaia's family in an alleged land allotment scam. The Chief Justice asked the ED, why is the agency being used for political battles? Siddaramaia says justice has prevailed. The Bombay High Court acquits all 12 accused in the 2006 Mumbai Train Blasts. The court rules the prosecution utterly failed to establish the offences beyond a reasonable doubt. The series of explosions in several local trains left 189 people dead and more than 800 injured. Well, let's go straight to the day's market action. The Sensex and the Nifty closing the day in the green, led by banking heavyweights. The Nifty reclaimed the 25,000 mark, ending today's session 0.5% higher. The Sensex closing about 440 points higher. The Nifty Bank up over 1%, and the mid-cap index also closing about 300 points higher this afternoon. But let's go straight to the big CNBC TV 18 exclusive. It is a regulatory intervention from the Reserve Bank that resulted in a surprise spike in AxisBank's bad loans and provisions in the first quarter. Now, CNBC TV 18 learns from sources that AxisBank was prodded by the Reserve Bank to recognize the stress. In fact, the central bank flagged the bank's NPA framework as being, and I quote, too lenient. Ritu's here with that big exclusive story. Ritu, many thanks for joining us. Axis Bank's numbers disappointed. There was that sharp spike that we saw in provisioning. But what you're getting to hear is this was not a voluntary action on the part of Axis Bank. This was prodded by the regulator.
Well, the surprising spike in bad loans, which dented Axis Bank's profitability in the recently announced first quarter numbers, which the bank had attributed to a technical impact, we've been given to understand was not entirely a proactive move by the bank, but rather followed a regulatory intervention from the Reserve Bank of India. Now, our sources indicate that RBI had flagged some lapses in Axis Bank's asset classification practices during a supervisory review sometime in the January-March quarter this year, where RBI found the bank's NPA recognition policy to be too lenient. While Axis Bank was compliant with the income recognition and asset classification norms on paper, we understand the regulator felt these internal policies were not really aligned with the spirit of the regulation, and in some cases, these lapses were leading to either a delay in recognition of stress or even under recognition of stress, and this was particularly noted in the bank's unsecured retail and small business loan portfolio. So RBI had asked Axis Bank to make all of these corrections in the first quarter itself. It was in response to this nudge from RBI that Axis Bank revised its internal framework. That in turn led to that 614 crore rupee hit to the bottom line, the additional 2,700 odd crores in gross slippages, and so on because of the technical impact. On its part, the bank even called the move a prudent application of enhanced qualitative criteria that was aimed at making its balance sheet more resilient. Now, importantly, keep in mind, though Axis Bank's NPA recognition framework was seen as falling short of regulatory expectations, our sources have made it amply clear that this case should not be compared to IndusInd Bank, where accounting lapses had come to light, because in the case of Axis Bank, the issue was only policy interpretation and not financial misreporting.
All right, Ritu, that's an important news break there from Ritu on Axis Bank. And staying with banks, IndusInd Bank has refuted media reports claiming that the RBI had asked the bank's board to expand its search for a CEO. The bank has said that the reports are false and speculative. The lender also clarified that the process of identifying a new MD and CEO is underway. As Ritu had reported, 3 names have already been sent to the Reserve Bank. Rajiv Anand, formerly with Axis Bank, is one of them. Reliance-owned Jio Financial has announced a 50-50 reinsurance joint venture with Germany's Allianz Group in India. The binding agreement has been signed with Allianz's wholly-owned subsidiary. The JV will tap into Allianz's global expertise and existing reinsurance and commercial portfolios in India. In key earnings, Ultratech Cement met expectations in the first quarter. The Birla Group company reported a 31% rise in profits compared to the same quarter last year. Revenue rose nearly 18%. Margins also saw a healthy expansion of nearly 200 basis points. On to the big numbers of today. Zomato's parent Eternal has delivered a healthy first quarter performance as its quick commerce business, that's Blinkit, has reported strong growth. The order value from quick commerce is more than food delivery for the first time in a full quarter. Mangalam standing by with more details. Mangalam, no wonder Zomato changed its name from Zomato to Eternal. It anticipated this kicker coming in from Blinkit.
It is hitting all the right notes. If I told you that a company reported 70% revenue growth and stopped at that, it would be a good set. But if I told you 70% revenue growth, 35% decline in EBITDA, and 90% profit decline, and the stock went up 7%, you'd say, why? What exactly happened? Well, it seems like the worst is behind because, one, management commentary is positive. Remember, the company has been disappointing on the food delivery growth front and the quick commerce margin front over the last few quarters. But now it seems like, the Blinkit losses have narrowed quarter on quarter and food delivery growth slowdown have stemmed. So 2 major problems the company both arrested. The management says year on year growth slowdown has bottomed out as they expect recovery from here on in the food delivery business. And in the very near term, quick commerce margins have also bottomed out. They expect if the competitive scenario remains the same right now, they will go ahead and see improvement in margins. Food delivery. Gross order value has been stable at 16%. The last quarter also it was at 16%. Remember, the previous few quarters it had been coming down, so that has been stemmed. Blinkit revenue growth at 154%. EBITDA loss has narrowed quarter on quarter. Same time last quarter, the EBITDA loss was close to around 180 crores. Now that has come down to close to 160 crores. And add to that, the company has continued its store expansion. Now their total reach is at 1544 stores. And on District, which is the third growth vertical of the company, they see at some point in the next 5 years, annual revenue run rate to be $3 billion with EBITDA at close to around $150 million. So these factors working well. Remember the last quarter, the one thing that annoyed the street was that despite them raising cash and because of the competitive intensity, cash balance of the company had come down quarter on quarter. That problem seems to have been addressed as well, with the cash balance increasing from 18,824 crores to 18,857 crores. So all things pointing in the right direction, and that's what the street got excited about. The stock ended at the high point of trade.
All right, Mangala, many thanks for joining us. So that's Blinkit bigger than Zomato in terms of food delivery in this quarter. A quick check of some of the other big headlines that we're tracking. Foreign portfolio investors continue to remain bullish on select companies despite maintaining a cautious outlook on the Indian stock market overall. Yusuf analyzed data from 150 companies in the BSE 500. He identified at least 10 companies where FPI holdings have risen quarter after quarter for the past 4 quarters. Let's start. Page Industries has led the way, followed by Minder Corporation and Autumn Investment. You can catch the entire analysis on CNBCTV18.com on our service Access. So do visit and send us your feedback. Now, Bharti Airtel has surpassed TCS to become India's third most valuable company. Its market cap has hit 11.45 lakh crore rupees. Reliance Industries remains the country's most valuable company with a market cap of 19.3 lakh crore rupees, followed by HDFC Bank at 15.3 lakh crore rupees. India and the US have concluded the fifth round of negotiations for the proposed mini-trade deal. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that key issues including agriculture, dairy and auto remain unresolved. Even as the 1st of August tariff deadline draws nearer, addressing an event in Mumbai over the weekend, the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said the government will only sign trade deals if they serve India's interests. Take a look.
There is absolutely no way we will compromise on the interests of our farmers, MSMEs, the interests of our workers. Our effort is to give them more opportunity, to give them more trade internationally along with their growing markets in India with growing incomes. Our effort is to make sure workers get better, higher skilled jobs. Our effort is to get investments and technology. Our effort is to focus on innovation, like we did with the EFTA countries, Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein and Iceland.
Well, that's the Commerce Minister, and the suspense continues on the Indo-US trade deal. Now, travelers to the US who require a visa will have to now pay a new visa integrity fee of at least $250 from the 1st of October. Now, the fee was mandated by provision of the Trump administration's recently enacted One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The fee is non-waivable and applies to tourists, business travelers and international students. It will be charged only if the visa is granted and will be in addition to an existing visa fee. While the fee is intended to be refundable, the reimbursement process is unclear as of yet. So that's going to be a significant addition to the visa charges. Now, China has exported around 353 metric tons of rare earth magnets to the US in June, marking a 660% rise since May. China has also exported 3,188 tons of these magnets globally last month, rising nearly 160% month on month. Now, this comes after Beijing placed curbs on several critical magnets in April, requiring firms to receive licenses for exports. Remember, this continues to be a big pain point for India. We told you first, and it is now official. SonaComstar is set to enter the Chinese EV market amidst the rare earth curbs. The company signed a binding term sheet to set up an EV component manufacturing joint venture with China's J&T. Now, in the first phase of the joint venture, SonaComstar will invest $12 million for a 60% stake, while J&T will invest $8 million in assets and business. The joint venture is expected to commence operations in the second half of this fiscal year. It's a CNBC TV18 news break that's been confirmed. Anthem Bioscience has made a strong debut on the Lal Street, listing at a 27% premium from its issue price. The company had priced its IPO between 540 and 570 rupees per share and received strong demand. The issue was subscribed 64 times on the final day of bidding and helped them raise over 1,000 crore rupees from anchor investors before the IPO itself. We will head into a break, but up next, stormy start to the monsoon session of Parliament. Protests erupt in both houses as opposition demands discussions on the Pahalgam terror attack and Operation Sindoor. A stock in focus today, Tilak Nagar Industries has been named as one of the companies involved in an alleged liquor scam in Andhra Pradesh. The police has accused the company of routing funds to a liquor syndicate through jewellery entities. Shilpa standing by now with more details. Shilpa, take us through what the police claims in its charge sheet.
Well, you're right. The Andhra Pradesh police has named Tilak Nagar Industries as one of the companies involved in the Andhra Pradesh liquor scam. Now, according to the charge sheet, which was filed on Friday, Tilak Nagar Industries allegedly gave kickbacks worth 218 crore rupees. Now, let's get into the details. As per the charge sheet, between 2019 and 24, Tilak Nagar Industries was one of the biggest liquor suppliers to the state of Andhra Pradesh Beverages Corporation Limited, or the APSBCL, and it was pushing its top-selling brands like the Mansion House Brandy and Korean Napoleon. Now, the main allegation is that Tilak Nagar used its privileged position and influence in the APSBCL to be able to secure massive sales. Now, the investigation shows that Tilak Nagar Industries generated revenues of approximately 1,472 crore rupees from the APSBCL, and an estimated 218 crores was paid as kickbacks to the liquor syndicate based on the quantity and price pushed through the State Beverage Corporation. Now, the police claim that these kickbacks weren't paid directly, but they were laundered through gold. Now, money was transferred to jewelry businesses, like 107 crore was transferred to Shri Jewels and about 3.5 crore each to Sona Chandi Jewelers and Mangatrai Pearls. And these were among others. Now, in return, gold was allegedly handed over to the syndicate handlers, helping the company convert white money into untraceable assets, but with a legal GST invoice to show for it. Now, according to the police, this demonstrates that the liquor syndicate in the state exerted, and I quote, ruthless control, compelling even major legacy players to divert part of their legitimate state income through gold transactions to the liquor syndicate, end of quote. Now, Tilak Nagar is just one of the many companies that was named in the 3,200 crore liquor scam, which came to light on the basis of a complaint by a man named Yidi Venkateshwar Rao Srinivas. Now, this complaint led to a 5-member APSBCL committee, which then submitted a damning report. It found that during the YSR Congress Party's rule, some popular liquor brands were unfairly sidelined, while certain players dominated the supply orders. Now, based on this, the Principal Secretary for Revenue, Mukesh Kumar Meena, filed a formal CID complaint in September 2024, and the alleged mastermind was identified as K.C. Reddy Rajshekhar Reddy, former IT advisor to the then Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy. Now, Tilak Nagar Industries, we have reached out but has not yet responded to the allegations. Back to you.
All right, many thanks, Shilpa, for joining us. Heavy rains and waterlogging gripped Mumbai this morning. The Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert for extremely heavy rain in Mumbai and Raigad and a yellow alert for Mumbai, Thane and Palghar. Heavy showers are expected to continue for the next 24 hours. The department has also warned of possible localized flooding, traffic disruptions and reduced visibility during intense spells, especially in the western and central suburbs. In international news, Israeli forces continue to pound Gaza, killing at least 115 Palestinians, including 79 aid seekers on Sunday. Gaza's health ministry said that around 19 people have died from starvation in the last 24 hours. The UN has issued a warning that the hunger crisis in the Palestinian enclave has now reached a new level of desperation. Pope Leo XIV has called for indiscriminate use of force to be stopped in Gaza without mentioning Israel. Addressing crowds in Rome, the pontiff continued his call for an end to what he called the barbarity of war in the enclave. The Pope also spoke of his anguish over the strikes on Gaza's only Catholic church last week, which killed 3 people. Israel has opened an investigation into the strike on which the church, which housed 600 displaced people. Peace remains elusive between Russia and Ukraine. Russia launched a series of drones and missiles against Ukraine in an overnight attack. At least 1 person was killed in Kyiv. Several commercial properties and houses were also damaged. The attack came after the Kremlin claimed that Russian President Putin was open to peace with Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said it downed 117 Ukrainian drones overnight. Ukrainian drone attacks led to flight disruptions at major airports serving Moscow. The Prime Minister will embark on a 4-day visit to UK and Maldives from the 24th to the 27th of July, and India and UK are likely to sign that landmark free trade agreement during the Prime Minister's visit. The deal is expected to double bilateral trade from the current $60 billion by 2030. The Prime Minister will then visit the Maldives as a guest of honour for the country's 60th Independence Day celebration. This will be the Prime Minister's first trip to the 2 countries after the change in leadership in both. The Bombay High Court has acquitted all 12 people convicted in the 2006 Mumbai Train Blasts, which killed around 180 people. The High Court said the prosecution utterly failed to establish its case against all the accused. Santhya joins us now with details. Santhya, the court giving a virtual clean chit to the 12 accused. This is a matter that's been going on since 2006.
Yes, absolutely. 19 years after a series of 7 bomb blasts, and these bomb blasts shocked and scarred Mumbai, killing 187 people and injuring 824 people, Shireen, the Bombay High Court has acquitted all 12 accused in the case today. In 2015, Mumbai Special Makoka Court had awarded the death penalty to 5 accused and life imprisonment to 7 others. But on Monday, that's today, the Bombay High Court in its order said that the prosecution, and I quote, that the prosecution had utterly failed to establish the offence beyond reasonable doubt and acquitted all 12 accused. So what exactly are these grounds on which Bombay High Court acquitted all these accused? Let's take a look. The first ground is confessional statements. The court observed that the confessional statements by the accused were not truthful or complete on various grounds. Some portions were either found to be similar or copied. The accused successfully established that they were tortured mercilessly to extort confessions. The court also noted that the police failed to follow due procedure while recording these statements. The second ground is evidence and recoveries. The prosecution failed to establish what kind of explosives or bombs were used in the blast. Therefore, the recovery of RDX, cookers, circuit boards, detonators, etc. couldn't prove any connection. And court also said that other recoveries like books, CPUs and maps also failed to directly link the accused to the blast. The next ground is witnesses and eyewitnesses. The court observed that ATS did not follow due process while recording witness statements. Identification parades were not conducted for the witnesses to identify the accused. For many witnesses, this happened, and some witnesses were neither called for parades nor asked to identify the accused in the court during the trial. One witness who also deposed in the Ghatkopar blast case had his testimony thoroughly dismantled by the defense. Shrini, this was the same person who was a witness in Ghatkopar blast case as well as the 7/11 blast case. Now, the next ground is CDR, call detail records. The court noted that the prosecution could have easily proved the movement, assembly, location and connections of the accused through CDRs. Instead, the ATS, the investigating agency here, destroyed the CDRs, raising serious doubts about the integrity of the investigating agency. For 19 years, Shireen, the Maharashtra ATS and prosecution claimed they had an airtight case. But despite the defense exposing the loopholes in the investigation over the years, prosecution failed to prove the offence beyond reasonable doubt, and all 12 accused have been acquitted by the Bombay High Court now after spending years in jail. Shireen.
Yes, 19 years. Many thanks, Santhya, for joining us. Meanwhile, the monsoon session of Parliament has seen a stormy start as protests erupted in both houses, with the opposition demanding a discussion on the Pahalgam terror attack and Operation Sindoor. Opposition parties also raised questions about the government's foreign policy after US President Trump's remarks about brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Leader of the Rajya Sabha and BJP President JP Nadda maintained that the government was ready to hold a detailed discussion on the issue and is not running away from any debate.
सब मिलकर के डिफेंस के क्षेत्र में आत्मनिर्भर होने के इन प्रयासों को बल दें, सेना के सामर्थ्य की सराहना करें। और मैं आज देशवासियों के सामने जरूर कहूंगा और देश के राजनीतिक दलों से भी कहूंगा कि देश ने एकता की ताकत देखी है, एक स्वर का सामर्थ्य क्या होता है देखा है। तो सदन में से भी सभी माननीय सांसद उसको बल दें, उसको आगे बढ़ाएं।
मैं चाहता हूं कि उनके तरफ से हमको मालूमात मिलना चाहिए, जैसा कि पहलगाम हमला 22 अप्रैल को हुआ था। अब तक आतंकवादी पकड़े तो नहीं गए, लेकिन हुआ क्या?
कहीं यह संदेश नहीं जाना चाहिए कि सरकार पहलगाम और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर पर चर्चा नहीं चाहती। हम चर्चा करेंगे, हर तरीके से करेंगे, और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के सारी पॉइंट्स को देश और दुनिया के सामने रखा जाएगा।
मगर इशू ये है कि कन्वेंशन कहता है कि अगर सरकार के लोग कुछ बोलें तो हमें भी स्पेस मिलनी चाहिए। हम 2 शब्द कहना चाहते थे, मगर विपक्ष को ये अलाउड नहीं। थैंक यू।
And staying with Parliament, Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu has said that it is too early to draw any definite conclusions on the Air India crash in Ahmedabad. Responding to a question on the crash in the Rajya Sabha, the Aviation Minister said the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is totally unbiased. End of quote. And the government will only comment after the final report is submitted. Here's the Minister.
What we have done, what the AIB has done, in fact, through the preliminary report is to kind of address what happened. Based on the facts it found out in the CVR, based on the facts it found out from the FDR, and only the facts that it was able to determine was mentioned in the preliminary report. To have a definitive answer and a definitive future correction measures, we have to look at the final report, sir. This also I can say that the AIB is totally unbiased and looking into the facts. Now, there can be many questions also. I have seen multiple articles myself. I have seen multiple articles not only by the Indian media but also the Western media trying to promote their own narrative, their own viewpoint, their own kind of consideration. But I have to tell you that the way we are seeing the investigation is through the facts.
Well, that's the Civil Aviation Minister. And staying with aviation, Air India flight from Kochi to Mumbai veered off the runway while landing at the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport on account of heavy rain. All passengers and crew members were reportedly safe and were deboarded without any injuries. The Mumbai airport authorities have confirmed that the runway suffered minor damage. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.